BR, nothing but rants, show where I find topics that I'm rather passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about.
Nothing but rants.
Hot takes.
3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. You know Brooks finna cook, let him rain. Try to do it like us, but you can't. Stay the young, going dumb with the chance. Big plays lead to even bigger bands. What's up? What's the word? What's the play? What we talking about? On the scene with the team, yeah, we popping out. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. What it is, what it ain't, what's happening? We gon' hit you with the stats and the facts, man. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Hey, shout it end zone dancing. We about to start it up, it's the anthem. That right, big rings got me handsome. Hold them up like we came for the ransom. I'm in the field, 2-minute drill. Highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control. Buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here. Back that back, Nat Chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care. Come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. The beat on the beat, hey. Yeah.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Tuesday afternoon. We are at noons this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at noon kickoff. It is state championship weekend in the state of Georgia. We felt it necessary to clear that window out for those guys, even though there's a 1 o'clock kick today, but it's single A or double A public. I think it's Toombs County. Shout out Toombs County. Shout out Lagonza Hayward. Shout out the other team that they're playing that I'm forgetting and blanking on right now. That's just totally disrespectful to high school football. My apologies. We got a loaded show for you guys today. If you're watching us on rewatch, if you're not watching us live, it's okay. We appreciate you for being here. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It's a great one. It's a great time to be here as we inch ever so closely to 40,000 subscribers. Jonathan, welcome in. How you doing today, bud?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Looking forward to another show. A nooner. It's the noon slate, baby. This is noon kickoff, the official one. I think the better one, honestly.
I mean, we're not as productive as writers when we do these noon shows, but boy, did I leave this studio yesterday at 2 o'clock feeling like I knocked some shit out of the park. I mean, we got a film study done before yesterday's live show, which the algorithm and Big Ten Country let that one flop. Big Ten Country, Penn State, and SMU fandoms, just the algorithm didn't put us in front of you. Only 2,500 views over a 24-hour period in that first film study.
I mean, they want to know why nobody takes them seriously and why everybody says the SEC is better. It's because they're not ball knowers. Because ball knowers would be showing up on a Monday watching film before the biggest game in program history. I mean, what are we doing?
Seeking ball knowledge is what I would be doing.
Exactly.
And shame on you, YouTube algorithm. Shame on you, YouTube algorithm. Out here putting preview and prediction videos in front of people for 30s and 40s and thousands of views. Well, we're out here giving the real certified ball knowledge out here, the real breakdowns, and YouTube letting it flop. Speaking of letting it flop, where are the dudes, Jonathan? Where are the dudes? This is a time of the year where movers and shakers and game changers and playmakers are supposed to be in the portal, and here we are. And look, hey, no disrespect to Eric Singleton. No disrespect to Williams Nwaneri. But am I just missing the next Cam Ward? Am I missing the next Caleb Downs? Now, I know Caleb Downs happened in January last year, but where are the dudes, Jonathan? Where are the difference makers in the portal right about now? Is the best Bear Alexander? Is that what we got?
Sure, I guess. But there isn't like this massive QB market right now. Like
No.
we kind of rattled off some names of like John Mateer, that's a name floating around. Fernando Mendoza, that's a name floating around. Malik Murphy, I guess that's the biggest name right now in the quarterback market.
Couple of Jonathan Williams, my guys right there.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I kind of went
shit.
3 for 3 right there. I was a big Duke. I was watching some Duke football just because of some Malik Murphy. Like, just saying, sometimes you stumble into the takes a little bit.
Sometimes you just walk right face first into a Mateer take, and the next thing you know, John Mateer's ranked the number 1 player in the portal. John Mateer ranked the number 1 player in the portal. All due respect to John Mateer. I think 3,800 all-purpose yards this year. A really good football player and a really good season at Washington State. But where are the guys? And I think I'm stumbling across a couple of things that might have impacted this. But what I don't have an answer for is, like, where's the mid-major superstar that everyone's out here poaching? Where's the attempt at a Ricky White poach from UNLV, right? We had a Blitnikoff Award winner at a mid-major program last year, right? Ashton Jeanty went for 2,000 all-purpose yards last year. Felt like the world was going to try to attempt to poach him. Maybe I'm just mistaken. Maybe I'm not paying attention, but I don't feel like there's a mid-major, even superstar out here that people are like, we've got to have this. There's like an Idaho receiver that's got 800 all-purpose yards. There's an All-American that's got 900 yards from SEMO that Clemson felt like popping a cherry for. But where are the superstars, man?
I mean, this is my indicator, too, of like knowing that the transfer portal is not what it typically is, because this time of year, when the transfer portal window opens, as someone who writes and covers college football for multiple teams, like, this time of year is the time where every single alert you get on your phone, you need to be ready, and you're constantly writing and pumping out articles because players are hitting the portal, they're making moves, players are on visits, people are committing to schools. It's been relatively quiet, honestly, on this side of things for this business. Like, maybe every couple of days, maybe you might get 3 players in one day, but outside of that, it's been quiet almost everywhere, it feels like.
And this was one of those time periods where, looking at the landscape of college football and looking what we think is coming down the pike with regards to regulations on the NIL front, with the settlement of House versus NCAA and rev sharing models coming to us, we thought, hey, maybe this was going to be a big-time mover period for NIL collective-based recruitings, right? Teams that have a lot of cash and a lot of NIL to throw at some of these players. I thought this might be one of those wildest of wild, wild west moments of our college football timeline, but it seems that we're going the other way, and I have 2 reasons for this. I have 2 reasons for why rosters seem to be more intact right now than we thought, or maybe we thought was going to happen at typically this time period. One thing, donor fatigue. I think a lot of these donors that have been funding a lot of these NIL movements, I think a lot of these guys are tired of getting called for money. And it's the same list of 100, 150 donors at a lot of these big schools, right? These guys have been given money over the years. We're going to keep calling these guys. These football donors are the same guys having to answer these phone calls. So maybe there's a lot less money available than we thought there might be at this time period. Maybe there's some donor fatigue. That's first and foremost. But the other thing, maybe instead of being in a time period where all of these rosters and all of this money is in aggressive acquisition mode, maybe they're in aggressive attrition defense mode. We're trying to keep our roster together. That's where we're spending most of our money right now, Jonathan.
And I think, too, like, I kind of was saying before the show of maybe college football is kind of just starting to fix itself a little bit, because it's not only just like the transfer portal news is quiet, but there's been no big opt-out announcements. Like, you've had some people announce that they're going to go to the NFL. They're not going to play in the bowl game. But outside of that, like, big-time football players, even if they're not in the 12-team playoff, that nobody's telling their teams that, hey, I'm not playing in this one. I'm going to go ahead and sit this one out. I'm going to focus on myself for the future of what holds for me. It seems like, at least right now, people are going to play in these games. And so, like, really the news in general, it seems like people aren't opting out. people are entering the portal. Maybe just like, and maybe it has to do with the calendar. People are saying the calendar is conflicting, and that's a big issue because of the transfer portal, because the playoff overlaps and whatnot. But maybe that calendar has kind of helped with this a little bit. Maybe it has like at least caused some like friction on decisions of, I don't want to just immediately jump in. There's still some time. There's still some things ahead of me that I don't want to just necessarily jump into this and go ahead and make my decision now.
And look, in years prior, the Clemsons, the versions of Clemsons of the world, the SMUs of the world right about now, Penn State, Ohio State, 9 times every other year prior, those teams are sitting at home right now worrying about what they can do with their roster, whereas right now they're worried about preparing for a national title or going to attempt to win one. So we've literally 3x the amount of teams that are playing meaningful games right about now at this point in the season. So we've kind of taken out some of those players, though. That being said, like Penn State just added a wide receiver out of the portal. Georgia's still in the mix for some guys still trying to get active. Ohio State obviously still active in the portal with regards to additions, but the guys leaving their rosters aren't at the high numbers that they normally are right about this time of the year.
No, not at all. And I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see how it plays out. Like, I think the biggest.
And we've still got 11 days, Jonathan.
Oh no, that's what I was gonna say. Is you still have time, and I think the biggest indicator for this will be after this weekend. Does anything change? Like after these teams that are not only eliminated, but even teams that win in advance, like. You got to enter the portal before your next game is played, even if you do move on. So I think that maybe after this first wave of playoff games is over, maybe some things will change. Maybe there's some more activity, maybe some bigger names. But for now, it's pretty quiet.
And if the writing's on the wall for you as a football player, even if you are, on a roster right now that's going to compete for a national title, and this is going to sound really individualistic and really selfish with intentions, but if your writing is on the wall, if you don't think you're going to play at the roster that you're on now, you have to get in the portal this window. You can't wait around for the spring window and think you're going to go in after spring practice, enroll in the middle of the summer, and win a job in 6 weeks going into your what could be maybe your last year of eligibility or maybe one of your last 2 years of eligibility at a newfound roster. It's such a detriment to you to be in that second window. So I think if you're going to go, you got to go now. It's just best business for you.
I mean, from a business standpoint of these teams, everything is kind of already wrapped up for these teams by the time the spring portal window is open. Like every decision has been made, every allotment, scholarship spot, roster spot. Like you really have everything finalized for the most part up until that point. And that's why you really don't see it, except for like maybe a couple names, maybe one or two. Like Brock Vandegrift was one of the big names last year to enter the spring portal, and that was kind of assumed that one of these guys from Georgia is going to dip out eventually at this point, but.
And there's also this real weird time period where we're at in college football right now where if you look at what they're doing in the high school ranks in terms of the numbers of players that they're adding to their roster, it's clear to me that the ACC is preparing for a hardened 105. Like Dabo Swinney's been out here basically crying during press conferences talking about cutting walk-ons because he was a walk-on himself. He loves walk-ons. It's very important to him. Hell, half of his coaching staff's got players on the team. I mean, it's a thing to him. And he's out here talking about it. They're adding 14 players in the high school ranks. So, and they're obviously not a portal edition football program, even though we're going to talk about their edition today. But it's clear to me that some of these conferences, Jonathan, are preparing for a 105, where it's obvious that the SEC is not. Where it's clear to me that the Big Ten might not be. Where I haven't looked deep into what the Big 12's doing right about now, but they're filled with a bunch of rosters that transfer portal add anyways. They don't really recruit out of the high school ranks ad nauseum in that conference anyway. So we have these very different playing fields right now. We always have, but it used to, it was a different playing field of a matter of resources. Yeah. Now it's a different playing field seemingly of a matter of roster spots. And it's a weird time to be. It's a weird time to be doing what we do.
It is.
Also a weird time to be having being an employer with an employee who's a Film Guy Network subscriber because they ain't getting shit done this week. Ain't getting nothing done during the work hours for you guys today. But what do you think it more is the reason for lack of movement right now? Do you think it's donor fatigue or the donor money is getting put to attrition defense?
I would say more so attrition defense. That would be my guess, especially for like these bigger programs, specifically like these playoff rosters. Because the way I would see it is donors now, especially now that they've seen the 12-team playoff, they kind of see the standard of like, well, this year, like if you're a Penn State, you're a first time in program history that you're in the college football playoff. I would imagine that your donors are viewing this as, well, we took this roster to a playoff. We know that this roster is good enough. Like Drew Aller coming back.
Yeah.
He's not coming back for free. Obviously, something happened, I would imagine, to where maybe he got some type of raise or there was some incentive for him to come back and not to go to the NFL. So it seems like to me they're focusing on, well, we know that we can make the playoff with this roster. Well, why don't we keep these guys, the guys that we know are good enough to do this, as opposed to maybe trying to find more pieces to bring on this roster, but we might even lose a few more because of that. That would be my guess right now.
All right, so you mentioned Aller coming back. Quinn Ewers has obviously flirted with the idea of maybe not going into the draft this year. Obviously, Carson Beck's health is up for question. And this is not prepared in the notes. This is just me sidetracking here for a second. Apart from Cam Ward, what quarterback prospect has increased his draft stock this year?
There's your answer.
Right? I just did a quick note. Cam Ward up. Shador's a push. I don't think Shador's increased or negatively impacted.
He's going to be a top five. Top five.
He's going to be the second or third quarterback drafted off the board no matter what. Dylan Gabriel's increased his stock.
Absolutely.
Okay? It's a weird quarterback draft class. A very weird quarterback draft class. And I know NIL has certainly impacted this with the idea that, hey, if I'm a second-round draft pick or a third-round draft projection and I can get $1.5 million in college, I should probably stay for college and take that $1.5 million and play. But it's just a very interesting NFL draft class at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's Cam Ward, Shedeur. Those feel like the two best shoe-ins.
First-round locks.
And those don't even feel like those. I mean, like, I don't think anybody's truly 100% confident in drafting Cam Ward.
Chat's already hit you with both or bust. So
exactly. That's what I'm saying is nobody even feels 100% about either of those. If I were a guy drafting one of them, I would take Shedeur over Cam Ward probably if I had to guess.
Really?
In my opinion.
Okay.
Just because I've seen more of him, you've seen more data points on him as opposed to Cam Ward. Just some more questions, in my opinion, about him. But, I mean, yeah, outside that, it's like Alan Bowman, the Oklahoma State quarterback, is going to the draft. And he was trying to get an 8th year.
Shout out DJU. Come on, man.
Good luck.
Fifth round tight end selection.
Have fun in the Canadian League, my guy.
Learn Chinese. Do they have that's the joke in basketball. Do they have a Chinese football league?
I have no idea.
Learn Japanese. They definitely got a Japanese football league. And those guys can sling it now. There's a couple guys out in the Japanese league I follow on TikTok that can spin the pill.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. Former dude from Fordham, I think, is out there spinning it.
Checks out.
Yeah. They got a weird ball too. It's like the CFL ball that's got the full stripe on it. It's not like a half stripe like a college ball. It's not a no stripe like an NFL ball. It's a full circular stripe on the tip.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, BetUS was the place to be and still is the place to be as college football playoff season approaches and bowl season kicks off and already has kicked off. Head over to BetUS today. Use promo code YouTube150. You get a 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first time deposit and 125% deposit match on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 again over there on BetUS using promo code YouTube150. Jonathan, there is some transfer portal news. I think we should start with Mr. Poach. Mr. Poach. Do you know who is Mr. Poach?
I would assume you're alluding to Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah, Lane Kiffin, King Poach. Prince Poachable is Lane Kiffin. So Lane Kiffin, the most notable story of poaching today was Jalen Mbakwe, the former 5-star out of Clay Chalkville, spent a year playing meaningful downs at Alabama and is now an Ole Miss Rebel. And this is very, very big newsworthy. And most people from Alabama think this is Lane Kiffin throwing a bunch of money at Jalen Mbakwe. However, Mbakwe took to social media to let the world know that this was the staff's fault, Jonathan.
I did see that about the staff, but I don't think he's officially an Ole Miss Rebel yet, is he?
Oh, not?
I don't think so.
No,
but I mean, that's
he finna be.
That's the whole story.
He finna be.
Yeah.
He finna be.
Of supposedly a 7-figure deal comes his way from another SEC school, which when you do that type of thing, it doesn't take long for people to figure out which school is sniffing around, which school is giving that type of offer. But yeah, I did think it was interesting that the immediate blame was put on the staff of they weren't doing everything necessary to keep me here. Like, just a weird story. And I know that, and I understand that this is not an exception to like this only happened in Alabama. This has happened before. This isn't like a unique story at this point in the transfer portal, but a guy that played snaps this year for Alabama, 5-star, first-year player. It's just wild to me that this is the track. This is the track of a player. Why go to Ole Miss? Why jump ship? I understand the money, but
now there is some social media rumblings since this, right? Mm-hmm. So Mbakwe enters the portal. Everybody assumes this is somebody getting paid. Yeah. Somebody's getting poached. Most people connect them to Ole Miss. Then Ryan Williams takes to Instagram with a picture of him and Jalen Mbakwe, and it's captioned, "Bingo, we got action," with a dartboard emoji and an elephant. And half of the commenters are like, "Oh shit, this means he's gone too." And half of the commenters are like, "Oh, this means Mbakwe must have gotten his offer match from Alabama. Mm-hmm. Bingo, we got action. My boy got paid." Hostile negotiation tactic, potentially?
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. And the initial reporting I did see was Alabama was trying their best to make sure that they didn't lose him, and that they were maybe going to try and negotiate with him and see if they could keep him around. And, I mean, this is something that not necessarily this drastic of a case, but we've seen before players in the SEC enter the portal for a couple of days, and then 2 days later, hey, I'm actually sticking. I'm not going in the portal. I'm going to stay where I'm at right now. Typically means negotiations occurred.
So we don't have a bottom line ticker on this network. Mm-hmm. But I've contemplated using the bottom line ticker for obvious things that you'd think would be known that must be said because people keep falling for it. Yeah. Like this. Here's a prime example. NFL Rookies Watch on Twitter. Not a credible source. Not a credible source. So when you see NFL Rookie Watch on Twitter tweeting about, hey, sources indicating that Quinn Ewers could come back for college for another year, and there's a Big Ten school offering him $4 million. I'm going to let you know that NFL Rookie Watch, not really a credible source. Bottom line ticker.
This is how you should know that this NFL Rookie Watch account is just posting stuff, trying to get engagement of. This was a tweet I saw today from this account of, if Dylan Raiola were to enter the portal, he would garner massive attention and NIL deals. No way. You need source. I'm sure it said sourced in it too, of like sourced intel. But nobody needs sources to know that if Dylan Raiola entered the portal, that some school's gonna be like, we'll give you $2 million right now. Yeah, he'd be the number one player in the portal.
Sources indicating if Kirby Smart were to leave Georgia, people would offer him jobs.
Come on. Jeez.
Wow. Yeah, but nonetheless, don't be out here. And look, I know Taylor in the chat. I don't mean to call you out by name. I know you were trolling. Some people are not. No. Some people are serious. Okay, loved ones. How many loved ones texted you about Carson Beck reports yesterday?
Too many.
Too many. Way too many people that I care about. That care about Georgia football or that care about college football are out here getting baited by NFL Rookie Watch on Twitter. So stop. Just stop. Jonathan, what exactly is Hugh Freeze doing at quarterback right now?
That is a fantastic question. I thought I had it figured out. Obviously they wanted to get a starting quarterback. Yeah, we needed a quarterback so Deuce Knight can come in first year. He can get some reps, get accustomed to the system that we want to run, and then maybe next year he's our starting guy for the next 2 years. And so they go and get Jackson Arnold. Great fit. SEC quarterback, got some burn. You want a stopgap quarterback. He seems like a good fit. And then Ashton Daniels is now committed to Auburn. He's going to transfer from there. Oh, I dropped the ball there.
Oh, hit the ceiling. I caught the first one. You missed it, though.
I did. That's on me, my guy. But then Ashton Daniels, the Stanford quarterback, who he played 3 years there, 2 years there?
3
years there because he has 1 year left. 1 year of eligibility left. Is going to come to Auburn and I guess compete for the starting job with Jackson Arnold?
Oh, he's going to wipe the floor with Jackson Arnold. I'm telling you right now, Ashton Daniels is a dude. Okay, Ashton Daniels has been fighting for his ever-loving life out there in SoCal. Okay, Northern California? Where's Stanford at? Middle California? Out there in California, my man from Buford has been fighting for his life, okay, and been performing admirably, if I might say. He's going to wipe the floor with Jackson Arnold in that quarterback competition, in my opinion, okay? So I don't know what they're doing, but they're obviously in search of a stopgap quarterback. The bigger question is, what is Ashton Daniels doing? Why is Ashton Daniels coming to Auburn with presumably his last year of eligibility? Maybe he's got
Best
2
deal?
left. He started at Stanford for 2 years.
But I swear I saw it only had 1 year of eligibility left.
What is he doing?
That was my whole thing. I was like, not only what is Ashton Daniels doing, which I would imagine that Ashton Daniels does know what he's doing. Like, so don't want to really question him, but more so like, what is Auburn doing? That's the whole thing that I'm trying to figure out. Now, I understand that they had 2 quarterbacks into the portal. They lost a lot of their depth because of the Deuce Knight transition and then also going and getting Jackson Arnold, but it kind of mystifying to me a little bit.
Very interesting. I guess if you made a good point. If you're Ashton Daniels, maybe you think this is your last year of potentially making money anyways playing football. So maybe you go try to make as much money as you possibly can at Auburn. I also think there is a relatively obvious path that with 4 games left in that year, Deuce Knight might be their starting quarterback anyways.
Okay, he's got to have multiple years of eligibility left.
He only started 2 years at Stanford.
It says he's a junior,
Yeah.
so he's got to have multiple years.
And he started like as a true freshman at Stanford.
Yeah, so he
and
has a
played
redshirt
well.
year.
And people were saying he's meh in the comments. Like,
Stanford's meh.
yeah, the fact that he was even meh at Stanford is impressive in my opinion. So I don't. Maybe they're just taking dartboard strategy. Take as many stabs at it as you can.
I've watched maybe 2 or 3 Stanford games over the years since Ashton Daniels was the quarterback there. And every single, like I watched him play Syracuse, I think it was this year. I watched him play Colorado last year. And there was some other game that I watched Stanford play. And anytime you watch Stanford play over the last few years, your only takeaway was going to be, why is this quarterback playing at Stanford? This guy is so much better than what the product is around him. That guy, and I thought last year he was going to enter the portal. I was like, there's no way this guy's going to stay.
After year 1 starting like that?
I was like, there's no way this guy's going to stick around here, as he shouldn't. Like, he needs to be on a better football team because he's a better football player. He needs to be somewhere where he can succeed. So he is a good quarterback. The stats may be meh, but from what he puts on film and what he puts on the football field, it's not meh.
He's a playmaker. I mean, he makes plays with his legs and as a scrambler making chicken salad out of chicken chit. Barian Brown commits to LSU, Jonathan. We didn't talk about this yesterday. I felt it needed to be mentioned here. I think this is a good I think LSU's system over the years, especially with Brian Kelly, has done a really good job of maximizing run after the catch wide receivers. Okay. Brian Roberts? It was the big, tall wide receiver. Brian Thomas obviously had a great year for them, but Malik Neighbors was their guy. And Malik Neighbors did some stuff over the top of defenses, but most of the Malik Neighbors highlights I remember were him taking a middle to intermediate route and taking it 60 yards, right? Doing great things after the catch. I think this is something this guy's going to be able to add to that offense. But, a better returner right now than he is a receiver.
Yeah, I know there's some questions of hands, like if he had some issues catching the ball from my understanding this year at Kentucky, but it feels like to me they're certainly addressing something that we had discussed about LSU, which was where are the wide receiver playmakers?
Yeah,
Kyron Lacey was good, but he was not the typical standard of what LSU has had at wide receiver. Now I know that the standard that they have set at wide receiver over the years has been out of this world. I mean, to hit the amount, like everybody talks about Alabama, what they've done at wide receiver. LSU's up there too with the names that they brought into the program. But this year, that definitely felt like it was lacking. And now you're seeing their name inserted on like Eric Singleton. He's inserted, like they're in the mix for him. They got the Barian Brown kid out of Kentucky, and they're in the mix for some other names as well. So it seems like they're really trying, and that's after losing C.J. Daniels, a wide receiver, on their roster.
I wonder if they lost C.J. Daniels or if they walked C.J. Daniels to the door. Did they lose C.J. Daniels?
Yeah, probably the latter.
I mean, here's my thing about the portal stuff, okay? If you're a 400-yard receiver, 500-yard receiver that played all 12 games, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about Blitnikoff award watch list. Like, remember a couple years ago when Buddy from Pitt hit the portal and went to USC?
Oh, Jordan Addison.
And Narduzzi lost his ever-loving mind because he should have. But we don't have any of that going on right now. We got guys who had a 800-yard season at Liberty and then had a 400-yard season at LSU that are now back into the portal. And look, a good player, 6'3", 200 pounds, good X body type. But there's a lot of that right now in the portal. We're going to talk about a guy in the local hour. This same exact example.
Yep.
Played at Cal, played somewhere else, had an 800-yard season, is 6'3", 200 pounds, but is okay. It's not like we got guaranteed this guy's going to be a first-round draft pick. Like a couple years ago, or just 2 years ago, we had the kid from Michigan State. They went down to FSU, Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman.
Everybody knew Keon Coleman was a dude. Where's that guy at right now? Where's he at in the portal? Our best version of that is Dane Key.
Yeah, right now.
All right, so Belichick got a center from Holy Cross. That sounds like a draft day story, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I also saw where Georgia fans will know this. I saw that Chad Lindbergh is interested in going to UNC.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I could have sworn he was going Ivy League at some point.
That basically is Ivy League.
I mean, he went to Rice, and now he's going to North Carolina. It was basically Ivy League degrees.
Yeah.
TJ Finley on school number 5 in 6 years. Jonathan, can you name all 5?
All right. I know the first 2. We got some Auburn.
Yep.
We got some LSU.
Yep.
I know Texas State because I watched them play in a bowl game. And then it's a red team. And my first initial thing was Miami of Ohio, but it's not Miami of Ohio. And then for some reason, Incarnate World was floating around, but that's not it. That's Zach Calzada.
And my boy Cam Ward.
Western Kentucky.
Yes. Yep.
Western
he was a
Kentucky.
hilltopper. He was a hilltopper. And he will finish his career at Tulane.
Bro's like my Road to Glory character. We just transferring in and out every single year. Best fit, best NIL deals. What you got for me?
We seeking PT, baby. That's all.
It.
We seeking PT. We just want some playing time. TJ Finley will forever be the stamped, if you can throw it, you've got a spot. Right? I mean, he never can read a defense. We'll never be able to read a defense. We saw that against Alabama this year. First possession, he's dicing Alabama up. Second possession, pick 6. Third possession, pick 6. Like, buddy, and just hitting dudes in the face mask, hitting defenders right in the cheeks, and just walking the other way. So yeah, will always be a definitive storyline of you got a chooch, you got a roster spot. So yeah, he can spin it.
You look good, shorts and a t-shirt. Come on over, because we're going to take over the algorithm in the summertime.
Honestly, would not be surprised to find out that TJ Finley is on an NFL practice squad. You know, we need a guy that can make every throw, but not when they matter. Come on, TJ Finley.
Played 5
Come
years.
on down.
Come on over.
Yep, we got you for 3 seasons and 1 camp. You will not make the practice squad the 4th year because you are not getting NFL retirement. But we will give you that 150 racks to throw the ball on the sideline during the game. Hey, not a bad way to go.
No, not at all.
Not a bad way to go. Probably going to be with all that system knowledge that he's gone through. No shot he's not a good football coach, right?
You would, I would.
I mean,
think
you'd
so.
have to be just the opposite, the antithesis of a sponge. Maybe like one of those throw machines that you throw and it bounces back to you. You know, one of those catchback machines. You'd have to be one of those with regards to knowledge to not have to retain any of that over the years. 5 systems, 6 years. You got to know some ball after that, right?
You better. I mean, this definitely feels like a guy that played for a long time in college, maybe had a few moments in the NFL, maybe not even moments, like just had a time in the NFL where it's in the bio at least. When you look up the wiki page, TJ Finley in 10 years, it's going to say New England Patriots 2023, and that's it. Nothing else, not a single word about the NFL anywhere else. And then it's going to be TJ Finley, new head coach at such and such high school football.
Hell yeah.
You know, like Mike Vick right now. He's searching around for a head coaching job.
I heard, well, I wouldn't know because I'm blocked by Schefter on Twitter. But I heard Schefter, in 2012, I was a high school senior. I don't know what I did to Schefter, but I got blocked on Twitter. But anyways, I saw Schefter out here getting duped by whoever was reporting this. Michael Vick, some Sacramento State.
Was it Norfolk State?
Norfolk State, some very small school trying to make it in the FBS. Told Adam Schefter that they have $50 million in NIL money just ready to spend.
Oh, you're talking. So Sacramento State. So I believe this is actually real because I don't know if you remember this, but this was happening during the preseason when there was kind of this resurgence of teams want to make the Pac-12 again. Like they want to find some teams, hodgepodge it together, whatever they want to do. They were looking for anybody. And Sacramento State out of nowhere, this random school was like, we can get funding right now, and we'll get enough money to where we can be a reputable Pac-12 school, like a respectable one. We'll do the funding. And they started fundraising out of the wazoo. So the $50 million sounds fake because it's Sacramento State. Who the heck is funding that? But
I know who.
There's some smoke to it.
Come on, dude. Be smart about this. Who's funding Sacramento State?
I have no idea.
Silicon Valley.
Oh.
Somebody needs a tax write-off up there. Somebody worth billions that just built a new app needs to chunk off a large portion of their tax revenue. Come on. Use your noggin.
Football brain paying off right now.
Nah, that's the Masters in Business Association right there. The one that sits on the floor that never gets used. Where was I? I was going to say, I had something I was going to, either way. Clemson took a wide receiver out of SEMO today.
Is this a high school kid?
No, this is SEMO.
This is a transfer portal.
Yes, D1AA transfer portal from SEMO.
Fugazi.
And SEMO is such a small school. You know why I know SEMO?
Why's that?
Because we walked up there and gave them their first Division II loss in school history. Beat that Division I AA ass. Anyways, that's how I know Southeast Missouri State. And the state doesn't get into the SEMO of that. Isn't that weird? Southeast Missouri State, they call it SEMO.
English.
Well, no, it's because Missouri's, what do you call it? Prefix is M-O. So they go Southeast Missouri, SEMO. But there's a state at the end that you just ignore.
I got you.
But either way, SEMO last year had a drafted wide receiver. Yep. This year, drafted by Clemson, a wide receiver. Went for 900 yards after going for 400 yards at a JUCO. So a real dude getting brought into that Clemson roster. Now, you remember, Dabo famous for letting the world know that nobody in the portal's good enough to play for his roster. You remember that?
I remember him saying that.
So now we have a SEMO wide receiver good enough to play
Didn't
for his
he
roster.
take some offensive linemen last year, too?
No, he flirted with the Division II offensive lineman out
from Shorter. That's right.
of Shorter,
That's
baby.
why I remember it.
I think that kid ended up at Michigan State or something like that.
Okay. Typical Dabo, I guess, of like this feels like maybe one of the last years where this is maybe really emphasized. Is like, yeah, we'll go ahead and take one now. We'll take a wide receiver. But I remember too, like it seemed like this maybe was going to be the time where Dabo and them got in the portal because one of the first names that entered the portal, I don't even know who it was, or that person might even be committed now. But Clemson was on one of the top 5 graphics. And everyone's like, is that who I think it is? Clemson, the logo is on one of these top 5 transfer portal graphics.
Interessante.
Now here they are getting a commitment out of the portal.
That dub against SEMO, Jonathan. I mean, Coach came. I came into Coach's office, called me in Monday morning. He said, son, they got a nose tackle. I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can beat him. He plays true zero. We're an option team. I think he's going to handle you. And I said, Coach DeBartolo, it's your roster. You know what? If you think Christopher Bino needs to move to center today, I'll be the swing man in this football game. What do you know, Jonathan? Christopher Bino's knee gets dislocated middle second quarter. So who's got to come off the bench but redshirt freshman Brooks Austin? And he walks in there, and guess what we do in the second half? We walk that ball down that field against SEMO, and we beat that ass, walk away with a dub.
Disney is about to steal that so fast. I mean, that is quintessential Disney script everything.
God dang, Timo in the back up in front of a staunched 2,500 crowd up there at Southeast Missouri State. Whew.
Against all odds, in a small Georgia town, Brooks Austin did the impossible.
I mean, just overcoming odds. I mean, could you imagine looking your position coach looking you in the eye and say you're not good enough today, and then midway through that football game needing to call on you, and what do? You deliver. You deliver and you get a dub.
Which is trying to be a team guy too, but ultimately it fell on you.
Why did it mean so much to me? Because it was one of the 7 dubs that I had in college. Jonathan Nolan hit the portal today.
Yeah. It felt like somebody out of that Ohio State quarterback room was going to hit the portal. But Devin Brown has already entered the portal, I believe, and now Nolan is also in the portal. So that to me says Julian Sayin is that guy. It seems like he's the dude, and that's
Timothy.
And that was a guy that wasn't even going to go to Ohio State, was committed to Alabama, and then Nick Saban retires, and he enters the portal, goes to Ohio State. Seems like it's his job.
I want a new rule. Okay, here's the new rule. If a player gets to leave because his coach left, then the player who gets bumped down the depth chart gets to leave because the new guy came in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I knew Aaron Nolan was hitting the portal the moment Julian Sayin committed to Ohio State. Didn't you? Sitting at home? I felt like I did. 5-star comes in the same class that 4-star comes in. 5-star that made money to come in and got paid to come in from Alabama. Probably going to be the longest lasting member of that roster I thought Aaron Nolan should have been able to get into the portal last year and had to wait around a full calendar. Right?
I'm not opposed to that. I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. I mean, because something is happening to your roster that was unforeseeable, unpredicted, would never happen unless that person's environment was shifted. Well, now your environment has been shifted as a result. So, yeah, I think that it should – but then you kind of open up a lot of different things, like every single team that gets a transfer from that
this
team.
is just quarterbacks.
Oh, just quarterbacks.
It's just quarterbacks.
Okay. So a little I don't know what you would call that, but
caveat.
An exception, caveat. There we go. That's the
caveat
word.
to the rule. Because it's a position that like you're never like barring injury, you're not climbing up. Like you're not going to play your way into a role as a backup third string, fourth string quarterback. So yeah, I felt like he should have been. I thought the writing was on the wall last December, and he had to wait a full calendar year. Well, January, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that quarterback room got so crowded so quickly, and it was only a matter of time of not everybody's going to survive. But is Will Howard out of eligibility?
Yes.
Okay, so you knew that a spot was going to open up.
Well, no one really is nowadays because you can just sue the NCAA.
Oh.
Because I think Diego Pavia is going to win his. Yeah.
Well,
if he hasn't already.
I have no idea. I thought he lost it.
Really?
I think he lost.
Go get a job, says the courts. That's
LinkedIn,
crazy.
Baby.
It's crazy. Go get a job, so says the sport, or so says the courts. That was one of my least favorite easy man takes. Man, play as long as you can. Football's a dream. Play as long as you can. Yeah, as if Diego Pavia staying for a 7th year isn't going to keep them from taking a high school kid or taking another kid or opening up a roster spot. As if these roster spots are not limited. Always made me angry because I see what happens. I've seen what happened to the high school recruits. I've watched it. Every mid-major kid in this area that 5 years ago would have been going to Charlotte or would have been going to UNC or UNC Coastal Carolina or whatever, or going to Fordham, no longer gets to go because those schools are taking D1 retreads that don't have a spot and they're in the portal, and there's 6,500 freaking names in the portal right now, all with eligibility somehow because the NCAA sucks. Jonathan, I watched Ohio State and Tennessee today.
Hold on. Before we start getting into the playoff analysis, I have one last portal take.
Oh, you got a problem, don't you?
I do. I'm really bothered by this because I really like this player, or at least I like this. I like the situation that he was in. I kind of like the path that this player was on. And when the news hit that he was entering the portal, I was like, okay, seeking a better opportunity, going to go to a better football team, a better environment, maybe one last year to really push for the NFL, maybe make yourself a really desirable NFL prospect. And this player is Malik Murphy. Was at Duke, put up pretty solid numbers, not anything earth-shattering by any means, but
2,900 yards, 64% completion percentage, didn't turn it over at a tremendously high rate, but didn't have a bunch around it.
Exactly. Like good enough to where teams that need a quarterback this transfer portal cycle are going to be sniffing around. They're going to give you your money, and you're going to have a good next year. Well, then the news comes across that he's going to visit at Kentucky. And I hate this. I hate this so much, not because I despise Kentucky or anything like that, but if the path for us was going to be we're going to enter the portal to go to Kentucky, stay at Duke. Just stay at Duke. Do the same thing there that you did this past year. Maybe increase your numbers by a little bit, but what right now is saying that Duke or Kentucky is a better situation than Duke right now because they lost their weapons. The quarterback room was a turnstile last year. It seems like there's no foundation in that program right now.
The offensive coordinating position's a turnstile. They've hired 4 in the last 3 years. One of them was the same guy twice, but
yeah.
I mean, they've had a ton of turnover. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
By the way, Duke, far more first-round quarterbacks than Kentucky.
Absolutely.
Kentucky's never had a first-round quarterback. Did you know that? Was Will Levis a first-rounder? He was a second-rounder, wasn't he?
I think he was a second-rounder.
I don't think you've ever had a first-round quarterback.
I just don't like it. And so, Malik, if you're listening, I don't hold any water in this for you whatsoever, but my heart does.
I'll call his camp after the show.
And my heart is saying, please don't go to Kentucky because I want to see you succeed. And I don't feel like going to Kentucky is taking a step in the direction that we should be going in. I just feel like that there's got to be better options. And that better option might even just be staying at Duke. I don't even know if that's an option right now, but I would have rather just stayed at Duke if we're going to go to Kentucky.
I'm glad you picked that bone because it was one worth picking. I watched Ohio State and Tennessee, and that film study is coming up right after today's show. Now, here's the deal, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. We put a lot of work into those film studies, okay? I put a lot of work into that Penn State SMU film study for 3,000 people to watch it. We got standards around here, guys. We got bars to meet. We got standards to set, okay? And the standard around here nowadays with film study is within 24 hours, that sucker better have 10K. So here's the deal. After this show today, we are unleashing the Tennessee and Ohio State film study. And if it don't have 10K viewers within 24 hours, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw a fit. I'm going to throw a fit on this show. Now, don't just do that to watch me throw a fit, but I'm going to throw a fit, and I'm going to be upset. So we got Ohio State and Tennessee film studies coming up. Now, normally what we have been doing on this, Jonathan, is we've been watching one side of the ball and then flipping over and watching the other team, this unit that's going to have to stop that side that we just watched. So we watched SMU's offense and then flipped over and watched Penn State's defense. So here's what I'm going to do now. All right, I'm going to watch what intrigues me most or what I have the most questions about. So this film study today that we recorded before today's show is about Ohio State's offense and Tennessee's offense. Okay, two offenses that have kind of sputtered at points this year and have really struggled with certain areas of their game. So Ohio State, what have they struggled with this year? Kind of a totality offensively. They have not been the Ohio State standard on the offensive side of the football, but to me, their main problem is they have struggled to run the football. This is a unit that brought in or kept Travion Henderson and brought in Quinshon Judkins, and everyone thought, ooh, here comes Chip Kelly. This is going to be a run football team. They're going to run the football 60% of the time. They're going to run it really, really well. That's what everyone thought this preseason, but they've not been able to successfully run the ball. And I want your stat rundown and breakdown right now while I'm going through this to kind of give me some context to this struggle, Jonathan, because I do think they've struggled to successfully run the football explosively, especially. And here's why. I think they're too complex. We've talked about all year about, hey, really rewarding or really complimenting teams for their complexity in their run schemes. But the problem when you're doing too much is that you might not be able to do anything really well. And I think that's what Ohio State struggles with right now. There's not one staple run that they can get to that they have consistent success with. It's not wide zone. It's not inside zone. It's not counter. It's not whatever their crisscross applesauce run scheme is that they've got going on here that they've stole from Shanahan offenses in the NFL. They don't do one thing really, really well. They do a bunch of stuff okay. And I think it's a problem of too much complexity. Do you have anything on this?
I mean, they're averaging 5 yards per carry, 33 attempts per game, 169 yards per game.
That's about middle of the pack?
Yeah, they're ranked 59th.
Okay. So but normally they're either top 10 in yards per play because they're so explosive in the pass or so explosive in the run, or they're in the top 10 in efficiency, or they're in one or the other in the top 10 in the yards per play, and they're in neither. They're in neither of the yards per play in passing and neither of the yards per play in rushing attempts. So it tells me what the film's showing me. They don't do one thing great. I think Tennessee's defensive tackles can really create problems for this unit guard to guard. I don't think they're elite guard to guard, and I don't think they're elite at tackle right now because they're banged up.
Mm-hmm. And that's a little concerning going into this matchup, knowing that you aren't that elite at tackle because a guy named James Pierce and also Jordan Ross, I believe, is the other guy's name.
Joseph.
That's what it is. Tennessee's got a really good defensive line. They got a good defense in general, and that's something that Heupel has built up over the last couple of years. That was like the bright shining moment of Tennessee last year. Was offense wasn't really moving the ball too well, but the defense was playing really well. And this year they've got a little bit of both of they're leaning on the run game, but the defense has remained really, really good. And so I think that Tennessee's defense can give them problems because Ohio State just hasn't been able to figure out, I don't know that they've really ever established their identity. It doesn't seem like. It doesn't feel like there's a core principle in there.
And look, you lose your starting left tackle who's a first-round draft pick, midway through the season. That's going to impact some things. I think they had to bump the right tackle over to left and then move a new starter, the Barr kid, number 70, in at right tackle. And then McLaughlin pops his Achilles in the middle of the season. So now we got all these moving parts at two premier positions, right? Center and left tackle. So it could be part of the reason why they're, struggling to create a consistent run game. But the other problem I have with this offense right now, Jonathan, is they have a real repetitiveness to their passing concepts, particularly the smash concept. They love, do we have Epic Pen ready? They love smash concepts. And now a smash concept, they live in duos. They always have. It's been an Ohio State staple because they run no huddle. It's easiest to stay out of duos and then shift to 3-by-1. Do we have it?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to the board and explain this. Now, they have a real propensity and a real favoring for this corner concept, and they get it out of a multitude of ways, but they live in duos. Now, what is duos, guys? Duos is two receivers on both sides. We'll put a tight end over here, and we'll put the X. We'll put the Z on the backside with the slot receiver. This has always been their, real target share guy. Right now, it's Emeka Egbuka, okay? So here's what they'll do. They'll run a little hitch, and then they'll run the corner route. That is a smash concept. Now, they'll do it out of a multitude of ways. They'll also bump the X in here, all right, and move the tight end out here, and then they'll run a stacked release, all right, and run him on a little out route, all right, and run the corner. But this is what they're trying to hit. They're trying to hit this corner route right here up underneath this cornerback, all right, that is now being put into conflict. Are you going to play the flat area, or are you going to play up underneath this corner? Also, by the way, we have to beat the safety with the football, all right? They found this week 3 on the road at Oregon in 2 minutes. Late in that football game, the best 2 throws of the game were from Will Howard on a smash concept like this, and now it's their bread and butter. Now it's what they go to. They scored a touchdown on it against Michigan early in the football game. This is what they like to run, and this is what they like to get to. Now, here's what scares me if I'm an Ohio State fan, all right? Tennessee's got some damn playmaking corners. Now, they're big, they're tall, they're long, and they impact the football. They don't just cover guys really well. They turn you over. Most importantly, I think it's Jermod McCoy, number 1. Yep. Is that the corner over here? That dude makes plays, okay? I really worry, and I can envision right now in a red zone situation, Jermod McCoy turning this team over in the green zone with one of these plays off this smash concept. Because, again, they can be really repetitive in their passing schemes. They're not really repetitive in their run schemes. This is what we talked about at the start. I think they're almost too complex in their run scheme. So they've got to find ways to get more complex in their passing concepts, Jonathan.
Yeah, and it's not just Jermod McCoy. I think Boo Carter, a true freshman, has played really well for them as well. And especially in that nickel position, someone that can impact the football a lot. He's been really well. There's multiple pieces on this Tennessee defense that's the reason why they have been so successful this year on the defensive side of the football. But I guess my question for me would be, like, if you had to design an offensive game plan that really attacked Tennessee's defense that you think you could find success in, how would you go about doing that? Like, is there a weakness maybe that you think?
Horizontal speed at the linebacker position. I think T-Lander is a good football player. He's way outperformed any high school projection I ever had for that kid out of Gainesville High School. But his east to west mobility is something that I would test early on in this football game. They're a big Dover team too. They've always been a deep over football team. So that runner across the middle of the field, can Tennessee find a way to remove that concept from Ohio State's passing game? I think that's kind of like the chess match that you're going to get into with regards to stopping Ohio State's offense. I think the real difference maker in this game is what can those SEC interior defensive linemen do to this Ohio State offense, because we just got done watching it. Is Mason Graham the best defensive tackle in college football now? Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'm with you. I think he's insane. Now, the other kid they got, the number 78, he's really good too. Kenneth Grant. So can Tennessee, I'm not saying they got to perform like those guys did in that football game, but can they cause problems for the interior of that offensive line for Ohio State? I certainly think they can. Let's flip over to the other side of the football. Now, we've built up a substantive Tennessee following, Jonathan, and I've seen them on social media kind of have some reservations about their coordinator and their offensive style and whether or not this is going to work, right? Whether or not they can win a title doing this stuff. And every time they lose to Georgia, I see the naysayers. I see them out on social media doing all this gimmicky offense stuff, not going to work when you go up against guys with better talent than you and all this other stuff. And y'all, I just wonder if people are watching the same stuff I'm watching, because I have thought Josh Heupel, of all the teams that we've watched this year, I've thought Josh Heupel has done the most winnable way of morphing his football team. He's gone about the most winnable path, morphing his football team to the deficiencies of his roster. Let me lay the groundwork for you. This is a 10-2 football team that is the 9th overall seed and has made a college football playoff despite these factors. You ready? They have zero consistent weaponry and winning ability at the wide receiver position. They have no weapons. Going into this football game, you will listen to people talk about how Tennessee does not have weapons and how Ohio State has the advantage in the weaponry department. And guess what? That's been the analysis about 75% of the football games that Tennessee's played in this year. All right? Playoff team. They do not have a good offensive line. They don't. They get beat all the time. They are hiding their offensive line on a week-to-week basis. They have no weapons. They don't have a good offensive line. And they've led the SEC in rushing. How in the hell do you do that? You have a really good offensive coordinator. You have a really good coach that can design good run concepts. And you have a great back. We know Dylan Sampson's great. Okay? But all of the morphing that this football team has done. Oh, by the way, first-year starter at the quarterback position. I know he's talented. I know he's great. I know they paid $8 million for the Joker. I know he's good. I know he's going to play on NFL Sundays. But no weapons, no good offensive line, a first-year starter at the quarterback position, 10-2. Not bad.
I mean, just even looking back of like the 2022 season when that was the most effective their offense has ever been. Hendon Hooker was playing at a Heisman caliber until he got hurt. You had a Biletnikoff winner in Jalen Hyatt. You also had Cedric Tillman as well. The best offense in college football at the time, putting up the most points, putting up the most yards, everything. None of those guys have turned into like NFL superstars. Jalen Hyatt is not doing anything in the NFL right now. Cedric Tillman is like a rotational wide receiver, and Hendon Hooker is a third-string quarterback right now in the NFL, second-string quarterback in the NFL. He had the most productive, efficient, outputting offense in college football despite not having a single NFL superstar on that offense.
This dude went from winning games scoring 44 points per game to winning games in the SEC scoring 27. Like that. Maximize your roster. That's all I ever ask coaches to do. And I feel like he's maximized his roster through a multitude of ways. One, being extremely creative in the run game. You're going to see that in that film study. Nobody's doing more in their run scheme right now than Tennessee and Josh Heupel and Halsey, the offensive coordinator up there. But doing it, morphing his team into a special teams and defensive style of brand of football as well. I've been tremendously impressed, and most people look at this as a down year for Tennessee or a year where you question the decisions or question the style of play. And I'm sitting here watching going, damn, this guy's found a way to win 10 games and get to a college football playoff with the first-year starter, no offensive line and no weapons. What?
Yeah, I mean, to me, and that's why I picked Tennessee to win I try, like, what they do, they've done it every single week. They found, now, it wasn't super successful against Georgia, the run game wasn't, but that's really one of the only rare scenarios this season, and maybe against Arkansas as well, where the run game was not efficient and it wasn't enough for them to win a football game. I think that the run game has been successful consistently this year. Ohio State has not been consistent passing or running the ball really at all this season. So I just think that Tennessee is going to be the more consistent football team and doing what they want to do. Ohio State, I look at them and I'm like, I don't know what you want to do. And it kind of determines, and like it kind of goes off a week-to-week basis of what it seems like they're trying to do to opponents every single week.
My other analysis point here is that for every 3 really, really special throws we see from Nico on tape, there's one really questionable decision, as you would expect with all young quarterbacks. But if I ask you in this, going into this game, Jonathan, each of these quarterbacks have to make 8 big-time throws in this game to win. You just got to get to 8. You got to make 8 really special, holy hell, that's a Sunday throw. Who's making them?
Oh, it's Nico.
It's Nico. And that's the way I feel about it. And, again, there have been some mistakes, most of which, when we watched him early on in the year, I can excuse, most people call them excuse, I can explain away, right? Left tackle's getting beat like a stepchild. Okay, well, the quarterback's reps done here. We're not going to blame him for this. Okay, well, wide receiver doesn't make the catch at the end of it because Squirrel White's playing with one arm because he's had a dislocated shoulder all damn year. Okay, well, we're not going to blame the quarterback for that one. But for every one of those, there's every 4 or 5 plays down the road, there's okay, we probably shouldn't have thrown that ball. That's a terrible miss. We got bad footwork here. But some of that stuff's getting cleaned up throughout the year.
Oh, I was going to say that what I've seen in the maturation of Nico is I remember we went and broke down the Tennessee versus Arkansas film after the loss, kind of explaining what happened for Tennessee. And
eyes are down the whole time.
Eyes are down, and also there was constantly defenders in his face because the offensive line was just not holding up. So we were saying of like it's not just a quarterback thing or anything, like he's just not given time either. Like he's not given clean pockets and is causing a lot of issues. Well, there were multiple throws on that film against Vanderbilt where there's a defensive lineman right in his face and he's throwing a seed.
Yeah.
So he has matured in that as well. If he's adjusted to his own offense and he's getting more comfortable, and it has resulted in him making those throws.
And this is why, like, of all places, and I'm just peeking the chat and I'm seeing this, and I'm not calling this person out, but I'm calling the thought process out. Okay. I see this. Nico was 20 for 33 for 167, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions versus Georgia. And that comment is being used as a negative for him. Guys, he was sacked 5 times in that football game, okay? And he probably should have been sacked another 5 times. He was the best player on their offense besides Dylan Sampson in that game. And if you watch the film, you can see that. There are a half a dozen to a dozen football plays in that game where it's like, okay, the only reason this was not a catastrophic play for Tennessee's offense is because the quarterback's really, really special. Mm-hmm. So, like, the stat lines will never, on this channel, the stat lines will never match up with what we think is actually happening because the film is saying something different than what the box score is saying. So I thought he played really well against Georgia, and people call me crazy for that.
Oh, I was impressed.
So was Kirby Smart, by the way. After the football game, he was like, "Man, we couldn't get that guy on the ground, could we?" So it's like, yeah. All right, I got several questions going into this football game. What is Ohio State going to do? Are they going to play 3 down or 4 down? Are they going to play it to stop the pass? Are they going to play it to stop the run? Do they think they can run and cover, which is the next question. Can you run and cover? Because whether you play a heavy box or whether you play a light box, the system and the space is going to create one-on-ones. So you're going to have to leave corners or safeties on an island, and they're going to have to deny the ball 50 yards down the field. So you better get comfortable playing the ball in the air. But the most important question I have for this is for Ohio State's defense, and particularly Knowles, the quarterback, or Jim Knowles, the coordinator up there. They haven't played one of these. They have not played an offense like this. And I'm not saying the talent. I'm talking about the scheme. The pace and space. They play some pace offenses up there in the Big Ten. Oregon likes to play with some no-huddle style, and there's some of this up there. Wisconsin's out here trying to do this nowadays, but they've toned it down because they don't have weapons in quarterback play. But this is a different animal. This is a football team that's not only going to try to take 80 snaps Saturday, but they're going to do it at a full 53 and a half. They're going to do it all the way out there, outside the numbers. So in the SEC, Jonathan, Georgia gets to prep for this style of football 3-4 times a year. They get Mississippi State, they got Ole Miss this year, and then they play Tennessee. So by the time they see these offenses, they've played a lot of this. This is an Ohio State defense that ain't seen this. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a shot. The only player on that roster that's seen anything like this is Caleb Downs, and he's seen it once.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the issues. And while it is, people want to call it a gimmick, I mean, that is one of the advantages of Tennessee's offense, especially now in this expanded playoff format of they're going to get multiple matchups against teams potentially. Like if they move on, they're going to go play Oregon. I don't know that Oregon's seen anything like this. And so it does hold an advantage to that. And I am intrigued to see how they adjust to this and how they game plan against it. Like I remember very beginning of this season when NC State was talking about trying to prepare for playing against them, and they were talking about all the things that they're having to change in practice just to prepare for matching up against the offense. Not even getting into the nitty-gritty things, but just making sure they're in the right spots. I mean, it certainly does a lot to you.
All right, let's be quick here with the place to playoffs. We've been a little long in the national hour, but there's worse things to do. The honey-do list game, Jonathan. This is the football game in the first round that if your wife makes you go do chores, you choose this one because you're okay with missing the football game. What is it?
Oh, it's Notre Dame, Indiana.
Really?
I feel like, and the reason being for me is I feel like I know how this game is going to go. I feel like that this game very easily could turn into a bit of a snooze fest of once maybe Notre Dame gets a two-possession lead. Yeah. It's just going to be, all right, Jeremiah Love. That's his name, right? Jeremiah Love?
Yep.
here's the rock, buddy. Just go run us to a victory. Defense is going to hold up. We're going to be all right. And I think
little Riley Leonard 12 totes.
Yeah, just a typical standard like tough-nosed football game. So that one I could skip out on.
We're going to make this a numbers play. All right.
25,000
views on Notre Dame Indiana film study. 2,500 views on Penn State SMU film study. I'm going to do my chores when you guys are doing your chores.
Oh.
Yep. You guys don't want to watch it? I want to watch it.
Fair enough.
The clinch bowl. Jonathan, them cheeks going to be clinched for 4. This is a dollar bill football game, 4 quarters. Where you cheek clinching this weekend?
Oh, it's Tennessee, Ohio State.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is as we like to call it, a dollar bill football game.
Dollar bill,
right
4 quarters.
4 quarters. I think this could very well come down to the final possession of the football game. I think it's one of those because I think both defenses are going to create issues for the offense. I think it's going to be kind of one of these low-scoring affairs, maybe like a 24-20 final score, 24-17, one of those types of games. I think it's going to go all the way to the distance in this one.
I got 2 that I think could be clinch bowl worthy because I think both could ultimately end up in rock fights. I think Clemson and Texas and Tennessee and Ohio State have 20-17 written all over them. Maybe a 31-17 Tennessee dub, but I think if Ohio State wins that game, it's very akin to the way they beat Penn State in years prior, the way they tried to beat Oregon, right? One possession, late football game, some moments in that game where the defense really shines. But I think we got a rock fight on our hands potentially in that Clemson-Texas game too. I think Clemson's defense could hold them to 24 points.
Yeah.
I think they have the ability to limit the run game and maybe cover those guys long enough to create some problems. So I think those games could be very, very well clinch worthy. I think the best 4 units in those 2 football games, right, are the 4 defenses.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think Ohio State's best unit is their defense. I think Tennessee's best unit is their defense. Same thing for Clemson and Texas. Could be a rock fight. Could be a 4th quarter, 1-score football game. Let's make a parlay. Which one of these football games you out here putting the parlay, trying to get some action in on?
Man, there's only one football game for this one, in my opinion. It's SMU versus Penn State. There's so much potential in this game of, man, you want to bet turnovers? Kevin Jennings might give you 4 of them today. You want to bet some rushing yards? Penn State's got you covered there. You want to bet some receiving yards? Tyler Warren got you there. I mean, all possibilities are open here. I feel like this game could be Penn State handles it, 24-10 final score. I feel like this game could be 38-35. I mean, you want to make a parlay and you just want to have some fun. This is the one to do it because it's so unpredictable.
I'm definitely just hammering the over, putting the mortgage on the over on the team total interceptions. I think we got 4 INTs in this football game. Easy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
So, yeah, I'm making parlays all over that SMU Penn State game. College football intro bowl. Jonathan, we have a foreigner coming in from a long away land.
All right.
And we have to introduce him. We have to baptize him to college football this weekend. Where are we drowning him in the sorrows of football?
Oh, it's Texas versus Clemson because
Really?
This game has everything. It's got the defense. It's got like an SEC caliber defense.
It's got bodies.
This is football in the South. This is what we're about. We're going to try and run the football. We're going to play defense, and that's how we're going to win football games. But then also, it also has this. Texas has a backup quarterback. Everybody wants to see some Arch Manning. And that, man, you want to talk about what college football is all about. Everybody loves them a good backup quarterback. And Arch Manning is the definition of everybody loves a backup quarterback. I think this is the best intro to a T of defensive battle football game. Backup quarterback probably going to get some shouts as well. I mean, Dabo Swinney, he's going to give you a quote. Like, everything about this game is you want to know about college football. You want to learn about it. This is the one I'm sitting you in front of for 4 quarters.
Yeah, you get to listen to Dusty Dorvacek for 4.
Okay, maybe not anymore.
On TNT.
I don't even know who that is. That sounds like he needs to be calling the NHL playoffs.
Yeah, dog. You get to watch TNT college football this weekend. Are y'all ready for this? Some of y'all in the chat right now, you're like, wait, what? These games are on TNT? Yep, that's right. They're on TNT this weekend. The first 2 games going to kick off at noon on TNT and HBO Max, which is just Max now, Jonathan.
Just Max.
And Max. So you got that Clemson-Texas game at 4 p.m. on TNT. Jonathan, do you know who's calling? I just told you Dusty Dorvacek. I don't know if that yet. It's correct. Dave Pash on play-by-play, Dusty Dorvacek on color, and my man Taylor McGregor on sideline. I'm 0 for 3.
Yeah,
I'm 0 for 3.
I'm 0 for 3 on
I'm
that
sure
one
they
too.
do a great job. But for you people that tell me you got to have like namesake to get on these calls, you're lying to me. You're lying to me because no, they don't. They don't have namesake. This is why, Jonathan, I'm baptizing that European sucker who thinks football is out here with that round ball kicking into a square net. You going to sit down. You going to get Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit in your face at 8 o'clock in the shoe. We're going to watch Tennessee and Ohio State, and I'm going to baptize you in college football. Night game style. Frigid.
That game really does have it all.
I'll say Fria. We got a whole nother hour, and it's our local hour coming up right now. Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape. All right, we are back. We have a whole nother hour for you guys. There's some more portal news on the Georgia news front. We got takeaways from watching the state title games yesterday. A couple of Georgia targets you need to know about. Which position group needed to buy the most? We'll talk a little bit about that. Guys, we got favorite moments. We got favorite moments for the season tonight, and we're going to break into a little bit of nostalgic tape. Jonathan, this two-man tandem, this two-man twirling that we've been doing these last 2 days, how do you think it's been going?
I think it's been going pretty good. I mean, I don't even know the last time I ran cameras for a live show, handled the stream. I mean, I'm doing it all, especially like breaking down film first part of the day. Then we got the live show. I think we're handling it really well, in my opinion. I think it's going good. You think
I haven't seen him pop up in the chat.
I didn't even see it. Look, I was going to say today, I meant to mention this in the national hour. I think odds needed to be bumped up to plus 700 for him showing up. Didn't even see him post-game chat. Didn't even get the post-game comment from Christian.
You know, I went to school for a long time, 5 years in college, got a master's degree. Now, when you go to your master's courses, you have to write these long dissertations, these 20, 25-page business papers, you know, create business formats and business plans and do all this long-form work in these master courses. And about 19, 20 pages in to every single one of those articles and every single one of those papers, I would, in parenthesis, like I was citing something, I would in parenthesis put, this has got to be, you know, like 20 or page or paper number 20 that you're grading right now, professor. If you are reading this sentence, I will not only give you a Christmas bonus, but I will personally write a letter to your boss and tell him how diligent you are about your job, in parenthesis. And I would do that in every single one of my articles, every single one of my 20-plus page papers. You know how many professors caught it?
One?
0. Not a single one. So we're going to do the professor theory. Christian Kirby, if you are watching right now, you get a $100 bonus. You get a $100 bonus this month. What do you want to start in the local hour, Jonathan?
Let's keep it rolling with the transfer portal news.
I love this. Dylan Lonergan was on campus for a visit. I don't know the timeline on this. It's so funny. They want to be quiet about the portal guys, but the high school kids, you know, we'll get a full list in the media. I'll get a full list from sources like, hey, this is all who's in town. This is what we're going to do. This is, you know, honestly, this is how we feel about this guy. This is what we'll get all the information on these high school kids. These college kids, no, ain't getting jack shit from them. So I don't know when Dylan Lonergan was on campus, but I'm assuming he was on campus recently or will be on campus today, yesterday. I don't know. But here's what I've understood about the Lonergan recruitment. They are in the process of feeling out where they might land if they go there on the depth chart.
I got you.
Okay, they're trying to if you're Dylan Lonergan and you've set for 2 years, your priority number one is go seek playing time, period, point blank, which makes Georgia an interesting choice for him to visit because I would assume there's no promises there. There's no, if you come here, you're going to be our guy next year. Yeah. You'd have to go into the spring earning a position and going into a position battle. I just don't think this is the place for Lonergan for him. You know, I've made my thoughts known. I think they're playing with fire anyways.
Oh, no, yeah. I think that if Dylan wants to go somewhere, and I said this yesterday, of like, if he wants to go somewhere where he can play, and he should be playing, Lonergan should be playing on a college football field, go somewhere else. Like, go get your opportunity. Go somewhere where you can be the guy for 2 years, 3 years, if that's what you want to do. Like, go ahead and set yourself up to where maybe you find your school that you can just restart everything and then end your career there, and everything will be okay. Like, I don't know that Georgia could be that place. It could end up being that place for you, but the path to that is not as clear. Like, there's a lot more steps and maneuvers that we got to make, whereas I thought there's another school potentially out there that you could be the guy for 2 years, done deal, off to the NFL, whatever.
Just feels like if he were to transfer to Georgia, it would be I'm not saying he wouldn't beat out whoever there is left in the room next year, but it would feel like such an uphill battle to go from January to August and outclimb 3 years of work that Gunner's done.
Yeah.
And this isn't a building that's just about, oh, that's the most talented football player. This is very much so, what does the team feel about this? How does the team feel about this guy versus this guy? And it's clear to me, after everything we've watched over the last, week and a half since, Carson's injury, this football team and the players and even the coaches in the building, they love Gunner Stockton. So I just think it would be a very uphill battle for a football player whose priority number one should be playing time.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so another portal name to mention, J. Michael Sturdivant. Now, you put this name onto my radar prior to the show, but it's another one of those guys. It's another one of those guys that's in the portal that may be something. He definitely fits the mold, 6'3", 205 pounds, D1 retread, NFL pedigree. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, he has a father that played in the NFL. He has an uncle that is a college football Hall of Famer, had a stint in the NFL. He was at Cal initially. That was when his best numbers came. So after his second year at Cal, had put up really good numbers, transfers to UCLA, spent the last 2 years, I believe, at UCLA, put up okay numbers, and now is looking for another home. Yesterday, there's reports that he's going to visit Georgia. But yeah, like you're mentioning, this fits this mold of 6'3", 205 pounds or 210 pounds, whatever it is. It fits that X mold of, like, this is something that Georgia obviously appears to be looking for. Of, like, Danke is this X wide receiver body type. Sturdivant is one of these X receiver body type players. That appears to be what they're looking for. So really, it fits the mold, I guess, of what they're searching for. But again, like what we were mentioning in the National Hour of, one of these guys that put up good numbers in the first spot, went to the next spot, didn't do as good, and now is looking for another spot.
So this is my fifth year covering Georgia. 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. So sixth year covering Georgia. In those 6 years, for 2 years, they've had a winnable, like, top 5 in the conference X receiver, George Pickens, for 10 games, 11 games.
Yeah.
Outside of that, no X. No 6'3" winner.
No.
Right? Ra was healthy and available earlier in the year last year, wasn't caught up to the speed in the system. About game 6 started to become the true X. Game 7 started to become the true X. Obviously play, no games this year?
No
Colby
games.
Young plays 3 or 4 games this year and isn't even like a dominant answer there. I'm at the point now covering this football team where I'm like, hey, just overpay. Overpay for whatever it is. And you know who it is? It's Dane Key. I don't know much about J. Michael Sturdivant. I know Dane Key can get 4 for $125 in this conference. I know that. With serviceable quarterback play and serviceable offensive coordinating. Pay him what he wants. And by the way, right now on your roster, you have nobody. You have nobody that fits an X prototype. Nitro Tuggle thinks maybe one day he can be one. I think he's an NFL Z. I think he's that good at that position. He's 6'1", 205. He's not an X in this conference. They don't have one. Dane Key's the player. They've got to hammer this one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's been George Pickens and it's been Rojak. And Rojak wasn't even the pedigree that George Pickens was.
Rojak's a 400-yard receiver in SEC football.
Yeah.
That's not a winnable player at the X. He's a serviceable player at the X.
But, more so, fit the mold, was consistent enough for you. Like, you haven't had consistency at that position at all. Whether it's been things happening out of your control or whatnot, you haven't had it. But I agree with you. I think that you got to find one because you haven't had one. And when you have had one, it's worked out really well for you. The offense has been very efficient for you. And People are saying London Humphreys because he's 6'3".
It's a build speed guy.
Yeah. That London Humphreys is not what your true X receiver in the SEC typically looks like, nor should he be playing that, in my opinion.
No, he's a Z. He's 100% a Z. He's a build speed football player that needs to get loose vertically and on deep overs, which, by the way, is exactly what Georgia has done with him all year. So I just think that if you're looking at it holistically, no different than you need stopgaps at quarterback. You need a stopgap at X receiver right now. You paid C.J. Wiley what it took to get him, okay? You did what you needed to do to get the 5-star or the top 100 caliber X receiver, okay? I've got my questions. We all do, but it is what it is. You need a year for him to get comfortable, I would imagine, in the system. Dane Key's the answer. Go pay what it takes to get him.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like, one of these scenarios where you could really, I think it could be a big difference maker for your offense next year if you were to do that. Like, get one of, and that's what Georgia typically is looking for, is like true difference makers on their roster when they go in the portal. He seems like a guy that could really make a difference on this roster.
Now, what I see a lot of right now, Jonathan, I see a lot of people letting the world know that they'd be interested in Georgia. That's what I see a lot of. I see a lot of, maybe they are getting phone calls, and I'm sure they are, because I've told you Georgia calls everybody, but there's some people popping up with Georgia as a potential suitor that don't fit these player profiles that we've normally looked at. It makes me either go, A, my information is incorrect, or B, this is the other side saying that they might be interested in coming here.
Maybe I would say more so the latter, but I think also, too, what we have to think about is what we talked about in the National Hour of your typical transfer portal pool of players is not what it typically is right now. Like, there isn't that big splash. Like, there's not even like a handful of them right now. Like former 5-stars played really well their first 2 years, obviously looking for a new landing spot, probably wants more money, whatever. Like, it doesn't even feel like you have a good handful of those right now. You maybe have one or two, and more times in this class, it's been they're in the portal for a day and then they're in their next destination already.
And circling back to Dane Key, it sounds like there's mutual interest here. Sounds like he wants to come to Georgia potentially, and Georgia is certainly interested in him as well. But you're getting into the conversation where, I know Dane Key's a dude. I'm not the only one out here thinking Dane Key's the best X receiver in the portal right about now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I think his market may go up. I also think that there's a potential that we, over the next couple of weeks, maybe there's another guy that enters. We still got 11 days left in the portal window, so maybe there's some more action to be had. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Any other portal news we need to talk about?
I don't think
Georgia
so.
related. Been relatively slow with regards to people leaving too. What are they at, 7?
Yeah, 7 now. I could pull up the list real
7
quick.
transfer portal entries, all of which relatively expected.
The latest one being Ra Thomas.
Oh, yeah,
he entered
that's
last
right.
night officially.
You know what that is? That's a test of we gonna find out how talented Ra Thomas is what we gonna find out. All right, because this is a guy who, he's been indicted, Jane. Indicted
by grand jury.
I've been indicted. He's been indicted, Jane. He's been indicted. All right, so we're gonna find out how talented he is.
Yeah, it felt like he was obviously it seemed like he was going to go somewhere else. I remember that when the season initially started, got suspended from Georgia and whatnot, there was talk of like he was already going to schools and being on campus and whatnot based on his social media. So it seemed like he was going to end up somewhere else, but what school that is, if it's another SEC school or whoever it is, I think that'll really tell you of like what people still think of Ra Thomas and how talented he is. Because this is a guy that, by all accounts, people are saying one more year at Georgia, this is an NFL draft pick. This is an ex-body wide receiver. This guy has all the tools necessary to be that. This is a day 2 draft pick, 2nd round, 3rd round guy potentially. So.
And he leaked himself on Twitch saying Auburn's already called. And that was back in October.
Yeah.
So, and I know a Big 12 team that's called for a fact because I've talked to the Big 12 team about him. So, shout out to the Big 12 team.
Shout out, baby.
I probably wouldn't, but, if you need it that bad, you need it.
Yeah.
So, it's, again, another classic example of sometimes your talent will outweigh your problems if you're that talented, but only for so long. Only for so long, it'll catch up with you eventually. Jonathan, I've been spending some time down at the Dome, which will forever be called the Dome for me. I will never call it the Benz. It's always going to be called the Dome, for some state title games. some big ones yesterday, and then I'm going back down there again today. A massive one tonight between Walton and Langston Hughes.
Ooh.
Massive, not Walton, Milton. Excuse me, Milton and Langston Hughes. Big time foosball game. 2 Georgia commits in that one tonight. Donald Glover, 3.
Yeah, 3.
Ethan Barbour and CJ Wiley. So it'll be a fun one tonight in that one as well. And there's a 4:00 game between Carver Columbus and another team that I've never really watched that I'm excited about as well. So super excited to get back down there today. But I've got some takeaways from you from yesterday's contest. And there's some Georgia targets that you need to be paying attention to. And perhaps my favorite football player I've ever watched of all time. Let's talk about the commits. Landon Rolden, obviously, in this football game. Jonathan, people know this guy because he's twitchy. He's a 4.38 guy, right? That's what everyone knows about him. People doing the Lad McConkey comparisons, and I understand, especially after having watched him in person. I get very Lad McConkey demeanor, very lunch pail demeanor, very white receiver demeanor. I understand the comparisons. But here's the eval. This kid plucks it really, really well, Jonathan. Most of these fast kids, when you throw the ball at them, they either leave their feet or they try to put their body in front of it. They don't run through the catch point. This kid runs through it, okay? So he's a 4.38 guy, and he plays 4.38 because he's never slowing down to make the catch better for his hands. He'll run through it and catch it off his back hip instead of slowing down to put his body in front of it. He'll continue to run through it and stay in stride and pluck it out in front of him, okay? So he's a 4.38 guy that plays really, really fast. But here is my nickname for him. And you said you don't like it, but I'm gonna have it for him. I'm gonna call him Substance the rest of his career for me, because 0% flash in this football player. There's none. There's no extra. There's no he put this extra wiggle on this guy and then got tackled. No, he is all substance. He is rooted 100% in substance. The only bit of flash I saw from this guy, Jonathan, he gave a little slime after a first down. He gave a little Carson Beck slime after first down, handed the ball to the referee, walked back to the huddle. That was it. No yapping pregame, no nothing. I mean, leaving the game, I saw a video of him. I had to get back to do film study late last night, but I saw a video of him after winning a state title, and you thought he lost some bitch because there's just no emotion. He's just a football player. Substance, no flash.
Honestly, when you said that and you started describing him, I immediately was like, sounds like Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Sounds like, get a first down, we'll give a little Selly and a little bit of that, but Carson is very, I don't want to say non-emotional, but just isn't one of these flashy guys. Like, isn't one of these guys that's going to, make himself center stage too often. I mean, heck, there's been times after winning football games where Carson comes in for his post-game interview, and it does feel like something like, did Georgia just lose this football game? Like, he's just about his business, just goes about it, does what he needs to do, and walks out of the building, and that's it. And that can be a good thing. I think it's worked out well for Carson throughout his career, but
Lad always looked like he was almost vibrating. He was so twitchy.
Oh, yeah, jitterbug.
Yeah, I mean, just
yeah,
the whole time. This kid doesn't feel like that. This kid feels like sudden and smooth and not just so violent. Whereas, like, Lad's violent. This is more Devontae Smith.
Okay.
Than I feel like the other guys. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
No,
but thicker
I see
than
it.
Devontae already.
I get what you're saying.
So interesting. We'll see. I like it. I like the football player a lot. I think he's going to be a real impact football player for Georgia, and just again substance. I think Georgia is about substance. I think they like substance-based football players, as is this next guy. But this next guy's rooted in ungodly God-given gifts. It's Caden Prothro. Now, I love a spot the D1 guy out here kind of games with high school, particularly small level high school football. Yeah, this kid is 6'6", 215 pounds, and he is gorgeous. He is gorgeous. Not a defender though. Will you look him up? Is he listed as a tight end, or is he listed as a wide receiver, or are some people still doing the athlete thing? Because you're going to see this with players moving forward that look like power forwards that are playing football. A lot of people are going to wonder, is he going to outgrow himself into a defensive end?
He is listed as a tight end. Okay,
so he's listed as a tight end. He's playing wide receiver right now, and he's listed as a tight end. I think he's going to ultimately grow his way into a tight end because he's got the frame to do so. Whereas, like, you look at a player like CJ Wiley right now, Jonathan, and CJ Wiley Every time you see him, he looks like he's putting on weight. You're like, man, is this guy, he's 210 right now. Is he going to grow himself into a 230-pound, like maybe he's too big to play wide receiver? And then you see him with his pads off, and you see how narrow his shoulders are. You see how narrow his hips are, and you're like, okay, probably never going to get to 225 pounds. And even if he does, maybe he's long enough to carry it well. You see this kid, and you see how broad his shoulders are, and you're like, oh my God, he's going to be 250 pounds. He's gonna inhale air and grow to 250 pounds. So I think he's gonna grow into a tight end, and he's a great 50-50 ball winner right now, and he's got some natural hands with the ball in the air. So I love it. And by the way, Georgia loves him too. And here's how I know when Georgia loves you. When they're not allowed to come to your football games, and they know I'm at your football games, and they text me about you. That's how I know. And I got 3 or 4 text messages yesterday, right about the same time when he jumped over a Division I corner from Brooks County, number 1, grabbed the ball out of the air, then made the safety miss, and then took it 20 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. And I got grown man text immediately.
Sounds like a grown man.
He is a grown man, and he's a tremendous kid. Tremendous kid. Very quiet. I don't think this is going to, and maybe it turns into one. I don't think it's going to be like some super heavy, like highest bidder type of recruitments. I don't think this is going to be a, hey, y'all wait till I find out where I'm going on signing day type of guy. I don't think this is a hoorah, rah-rah type of football player. It's a guy who loves the squat rack, Jonathan. This guy loves the squat rack, as does every Bowden Red Devil. Their coach goes viral every year for his squat tactics. They have a day every offseason, their first day of the offseason, he brings out trash cans to the squat racks because he makes them squat till they puke.
Oh.
I've never puked while squatting. I would imagine it's not fun.
Yeah, no.
Could you imagine squatting so much you feel like you got to vomit?
No.
Like vomiting's only a thing that I normally do when I'm breathing really heavy for an extended period of time. Not squatting.
Yeah, no, I'll pass on that one.
And they get used, Jonathan. They get used. They do not sit there for show and tell. Show and yell into the trash can. So, yeah, Caden Prothro, going to be a really, really good football player, as is George Lamons Jr. Now, we tried to get a photo on the stream yesterday. I am all over George Lamons. Now, he's a 2027 football player. And everyone's already on him. He's a 5-star, I think, in the 2027 class. About 6'3", already listed at 217 on his own Twitter profile as a sophomore.
Ooh.
Okay. Most people projecting him to be a tight end. Here's what I'm saying he is. He's Alshon Jeffrey. Yeah. This kid's Alshon Jeffrey already. Now, yesterday, Jonathan, he was playing in a full-on cast. There wasn't a tape job. This was a full-on cast on this dude's foot. And he damn near won a state title by himself.
On his foot.
On his foot. A damn near cast on his foot. Now, this was the photo that made me fall in love with him. Okay, the playing hurt and the being an animal, that all made me fall in love with you. But this right here, I love this. Brooks County, Georgia. This is a southeast Georgia. This is Valdosta. This right here is why I love George Lamons. Now, go ahead, zoom in on me right here. Now, I am a man who fashions myself a fisherman, okay? Oh, please. Oh, yeah. Now, I hope that's not an important text message. I just let the world see, okay? But I love me some George Lamons, okay? I love me a South Georgia boy who loves ripping lips. That's what I love.
So much so that he's licking the fish, right?
Hey, you got to give a little kiss. Look, thank you for your service. Send him back to the water.
Got to let him know who's the dominator here.
That's a proper release fisherman right there.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to put that fish in the water, move it back and forth, let some water get into its gills, and then let it loose. That sucker ain't going to throw that fish back in the water. He going to kiss him, he going to say thank you, and he going to let him walk. And go for $175 on your local high school football team.
That's what Georgia football is all about.
That got to be a dog. Got to be. You can't let that guy leave the state.
No.
Unless he goes to Florida State, and I'm okay with that. Because, that might as well be Florida State territory down there. You're 45 minutes from Tallahassee, basically.
Yeah.
You got to come 4.5 hours up to Athens. I understand you want to stay closer to home if you choose to do so. George Lamont's a name you need to know moving forward, as is Kamari Brooks, the 2026 edge rusher from North Oconee. Has a UGA offer, Jonathan. I think they were kind of feeling him out, all right, because here's the deal. There's another 2026 in-state edge rusher by the name of Jordan Carter, who you know I'm all over, all right? But Jordan Carter, a Texas A&M commit now. Yep. So this might be a really, really good, we missed on Jordan Carter. Maybe we settle on Kamari Brooks, and you might be settling on the much higher ceiling football player. You know why I love Jordan Carter. I think Jordan Carter plays with his hair on fire. I think there is a place in college football for 6'3", 250-pound dudes who just ain't going to have it. For 4 quarters, they're not going to have you out here trying to block them. They're going to play like a madman for 4 quarters. However, I also think there's a place in this conference for 6'4", 225-pound, really fluid movers, who is exactly what Kamari Brooks is.
I've seen Jordan Carter play before, so I understand that. I haven't seen this one play, but just the general profile that you've kind of laid out, the landscape of this one, I love everything about that too. I mean, you have kind of 2 sides of the coin here. I like both players, it sounds like. So
I like high-ceiling, fluid movers who make a lot of plays. That's what Kamari Brooks is. And if you watched that title game yesterday, Jonathan, I left right after halftime. He had 7 tackles and 2 sacks in the first half of that football game. 2 sacks against a triple option team, by the way. Doing it. And moves really, really well. Now, I got a new favorite player. Now, I might find a new favorite player today, but I couldn't take my eyes off this guy yesterday. All right, and it's going to seem like I'm doing a bit here, but this dude was balling yesterday. This kid, I don't know his name. He's number 50 from Brooks County, and he is a fire hydrant. Oh, my God, is he a fire hydrant. Jonathan, please play this video that I got of my man number 50 from Brooks County yesterday.
I just can't stop watching him. He's putting in so much work. He's really a menace, though. Oh, please, Lord, let him do something cool right now in this 4th and 7. Look at that stance. It's got modern-day sumo wrestler. Oh, yeah, get a piece. I think the ball's over here. Incomplete. Oh, yes. Bro, them cleats are putting in so much work right now.
Jonathan, now I know you couldn't quite see it in that film. Maybe you could. But you know when you've become a real hefty individual. Here's when it is. When you have a shoe that's tongue goes all the way out to the side, first and foremost. Second, okay, the outside of your shoe looks like, it needs help right now. Like, it looks like the stitching's about to explode because all of the weight on your foot has now shifted to the outside. Wasn't nobody working harder than number 50's pair of cleats yesterday, okay? Wasn't nobody working harder than number 50's cleats. Now, here was my favorite part about number 50. They probably ran 60 offensive snaps yesterday from Brooks County. They probably ran 35 counters, okay? And they ran number 50. They skip-pulled him every single time. And if he just as much as got his hands on you, he just lay on you right there. You're on your back immediately. Number 50 was putting in work yesterday. I love it.
I love the strut as he's walking onto the field.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this dude means I'm a football player. I'm about to do my business, about to do this work. I'm about to walk my happy ass back onto the sideline real quick.
Man's cheeks were touching the face mask of that helmet.
I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Oh, man. He was 5'4", 285, and was mauling people, dude. I was all over it.
I love that.
I love that. Jonathan, they got a good break here, does Georgia. Got a good 23 days of rest. Which unit on this football roster needed this rest the most? And here's the caveat. No quarterback mentioned. Go.
Yeah, obviously the obvious one would be the quarterback room, getting Gunnar Stockton prepared for this matchup between either Indiana or rimmed out.
I tried to put some flash on it at the end.
But between either Indiana or Notre Dame. But I honestly think that the room that needs it most, I think this plays into multiple factors of not only are you trying to get healthy, but also getting this room ready, because you're probably going to have to rely on them a good bit more. And they're probably going to have a surge, in my opinion, in the playoffs if this team does indeed make a run. I picked the running back room. Etienne had a great game against Texas, was playing banged up. That's time for him to get healthy. Branson Robinson and Roderick Robinson. Roderick Robinson got to play against Georgia Tech. Saw a little bit of him against Texas, but not a whole lot of him. Getting him some time to get acclimated back into the mix as well. So I think this room can get healthy over these next few weeks, and then also getting them prepared for having probably a bigger role in this offense as well besides Gunnar Stockton.
I've got a top 3.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Any all eyes?
No all
Oh,
eyes.
strictly top 3.
We were lazy today. I pulled a Kirby. I was like, you know what? We did the work. We're just not going to show up and finish it. That's what we're going to do. $110 if he's listening now.
Ooh, up the ante.
Yep. No chance he's collecting. 0. By the end of this, we might get up to a rack, and there's no way he's coming to collect that money. 0. Top 3. Should I go 1 to 3?
No, we go 3 to 1.
3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Wide receiver room, learning how to re-catch a football. It's kind of important.
Yeah.
Over the next 23 days. And I know there's some people that were like, oh, man, Arian caught Gunner's ball. Maybe Carson's got a tough ball to catch. Other way around. And here's why I've always told you, Jonathan, it's important. It's important to go see him in person. But really, you don't know until you stand in there and catch it, right? Really, you don't know what that football looks like coming out of that quarterback's hands until you stand right in front of it and take that ball to the face. Hey, yo. And as someone who's taken both of those balls to the face, hey, yo.
Sir.
Carson, much more catchable football. Gunner feels like a pound of bricks hitting your hand. It is very violent. It is very heavy. All right, we talk about that. If you've ever been a baseball player, all 92s are not equivalent. 192 might look like a sneaky 92. 192 might be a 92 with some movement. 192 is a heavy 92. Feels like it arrives late on you, okay? That is the football that Gunnar Stockton throws, and they've got to get acclimated to that. They've had problems catching the football. That's going to, got to get comfortable with that moving forward. I went with the running back room number 2, just like you. Number 1, D-line room. How healthy can Kristen Miller get? All right. Now, I know Xavier McLeod played well and Warren Brinson played well against Texas, but Kristen Miller was a difference maker in that room early on and midway through this season. So I need 52 to get back right and healthy. All right. Now, I know they're probably going to opt for surgery after this college football playoff run, but this 23 days, how healthy can that shoulder get having dislocated it a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I really want Kristen back too, assuming that Notre Dame is indeed the team that you play. A team that runs the ball with not only the quarterback but the running back as well, having that difference maker in the run game as Kristen has been the entire year. It would be phenomenal if you could get 52 back in the mix, as healthy as he could possibly be, whatever that is, just having him back in general. Because, he's put on some of the best tape out of anybody on this Georgia football team this year. You need him. And you'd feel a lot more comfortable, I think, having him back in the mix.
Don't have any worries about what's going on in the defensive back room at all. You feel like they're actually a solid point at this point in the year. Linebacker room finally getting relatively healthy. Smile Mondon back in the mix. You don't feel like anybody's really banged up there. I guess the real thing over the next, we're 15 days out. The next 15 days would be maintaining health, really.
Yeah. Making sure that you don't have any more nicks.
And getting things cleaned up. I also don't think there is maybe Oregon, because Dan's one of these psychos, but there's not a staff in this country turning over both of their future opponents more than what Georgia's doing right now. Georgia's going to know Notre Dame and Indiana better than anybody that could have played them this year. And that kind of sucks for those analysts, because, you're kind of going through portal potential additions right now. So you're separating this, right? You got your analyst staff, and then you got your recruiting staff and your scouting and development staff. Your scouting and development staff over the next 20 days ain't sleeping. They're turning over the portal as heavy as they possibly can. Whereas your analyst staff over the next 20 days ain't sleeping, because they're turning over what they got going on with Indiana and Notre Dame in terms of previewing. And then your coaching staff ain't sleeping, because they're doing both. Real time to be alive.
Bye week.
Yeah, bye week. Time off.
Yeah.
Yeah, for these guys.
Little vacation.
And could you imagine what it would have been like right now had they been able to go to these state championship games?
Oh.
Used to, they were doing all this and recruiting. Jesus Christ. Yeah, you'd have to pay me $1.2 million to go be a position coach nowadays in SEC football. By the way, still nothing definitive right now on Carson's injury status. Still waiting on final information from that. Everything I've heard is the only thing officially ruled out is the Sugar Bowl. Nothing else has been determined. And I think what they're waiting on is probably swelling to continue to go down and maybe some clarity on these MRIs and these x-rays that they're taking.
It's nice that you haven't had to officially rule him out yet. And not only for your sake, but also anybody that could potentially have Georgia down the road. Not necessarily Notre Dame or Indiana, but anybody on the other side of the bracket, like a Boise State or anybody like a Penn State, knowing that what you see against Notre Dame and Indiana, if Georgia wins that game, it may not be the same thing that you get against them. So it adds another wrinkle into that as well for you.
Yeah, I would be curious to see how, the winner of that Notre Dame and Indiana game, how are they going about preparing for Georgia's offense? Like, what are you, and I talked about it when we first started talking about Gunner being the starter in the Sugar Bowl, is that when you're facing Georgia now until after that Sugar Bowl, you're projecting, you're guessing what you think you might see. That's terrifying for at least a really talented roster from Georgia, right? Maybe you're more worried about what Carson Beck as a thrower can do to you versus what Gunner, the quarterback, can do to you. But I know what the Carson Beck offense looks like. I have no idea what Gunner's offense is going to look like.
And there's nothing in the past of, like, even in Kirby Smart's time at Georgia to give any type of guess of what this is going to look like. This is very new to what Georgia is going to be doing with Gunner Stockton.
And that's part of the reason why I'm so optimistic about their side of the bracket that they have, right? I don't think there's an offense on their side of the bracket that I think can score 35 points against Georgia's defense right now today. So that tells me they have an opportunity to get to a national title. Now, if Texas or Oregon come out the other side,
different ballgame.
Different story, completely different story. But I think you have an opportunity to get there with running the ball and playing defense.
Yep, I think so too.
And a complete suddency or a complete guessing game with what the first opponent's going to have to prepare for against you guys. All right, Jonathan, we had some good moments this year.
Yeah, we
some
did.
really good moments this year covering college football. I cried a few times. Love a good cry, Oh, this is pussy crying. I love a good cry. I don't love a good cry for, tragic loss or pain or anything like that, but a good grateful cry.
Good happy tears.
I love a good grateful cry. And I had a couple of those this year. Some of them brought on by these moments. What were your favorite moments of the college football season so far?
I don't know if they ever brought tears to my eyes. I don't know if I'm in that category, but
Guy's not comfortable with his emotions. Wait till you have kids.
touche. My first one, though, this was just the entire weekend because it was such a fulfilled weekend, and it was just I did the Jacksonville road trip because this was a lot of firsts for me. It was my first time going to the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Never experienced that before. First time going to the Georgia-Florida game, so that was fun to experience, getting to watch that game and just the game in general, the ups and downs in that one. You're down at halftime. Carson Beck is kind of having an iffy day on his part, but then you come back in the second half, and you ultimately get the win. But also Friday night, getting to go to Lowndes versus Valdosta, doing Friday nights mic'd. Just the road trip in totality was incredible. I loved every bit of it. I kept saying, like, I feel more excited to watch this high school football game than I am to watch Georgia play on Saturday because the stadium was something I'd never seen at the high school level. The caliber of football was something I was not used to seeing at the high school level. Just everything about that weekend, even down to the part of driving home Saturday night, getting home at 3 a.m., everything about that weekend, I just absolutely love. So the Jacksonville trip for me, that was a good one. Number two, the amount of chaos in general this season. Now, the games, specifically the games that I went and covered this year, I started out covering Tennessee Tech, Georgia versus Tennessee Tech. That was a nice, easy one. First time getting credentials at Sanford, that was a nice one. Then you go to the road trip to Kentucky. Didn't see that one coming. That one went down to 4 quarters. Thought we were maybe going to get a field storming if Kentucky won. Ultimately, didn't happen.
Also, a really nice press box.
Yeah, I think that
really nice press box.
Very NFL style football stadium Kentucky has. So I enjoyed that one. The next one, Alabama. Absolutely absurd. Could even be the best college football game of the season if you wanted to put it up there with that one. That one was crazy. I mentioned Georgia, Florida already.
You can't go by that Alabama road trip without talking about those frat parties we saw on Friday night.
Oh, the walk down, what was it, Boulevard?
Yeah, I guess, Frat Boulevard, whatever.
Yeah, that's what we'll call it.
Debauchery.
For a whole mile. parked at the Wendy's or whatever it was that we parked at, took a good mile trek downtown
biggest
Alabama.
Display of daddy's money you've ever seen. I'm talking about right here.
I mean, it was rager after rager, full-on concerts, got the laser shows going, anything and everything you wanted to see.
Laser show, Johnny.
Yeah. That was full. It was full go in Alabama that weekend. So I absolutely loved that trip as well. And then I mentioned Georgia, Florida. Got to cover the Georgia Tennessee game. That was awesome. Night game in Sanford. The fireworks. That was the first time that those have been done at Georgia. Then covered the 8 overtime thriller against Georgia Tech. What a late night that was. Something you didn't see. And then also got to cover an SEC championship game. Another one checked off the list for me. Another overtime thriller. Just the amount of chaos and the type of memorable season this was for someone in my shoes. One I won't forget. Number 3, Trevor Etienne's performance against Texas both times, but more so the SEC championship game. And I think this really does just continue to hammer home of what I saw post-game of how he talked about that football game, how he talked about this is something I wanted to do, play in December. It's why I came to Georgia, be a starting role, playing injured, was going to play in that game no matter what. Those are the types of moments I love seeing in college football. Number 4, the Dan Jackson surge. The fact that he had his best season ever at Georgia this year came at a time that they really needed it. There were moments and times this season where other players maybe weren't playing to the caliber that they maybe should have been, but Dan Jackson was a mainstay in this defense. He was a consistent factor in this defense, had some historic plays. I mean, the forced fumble against Georgia Tech will go down in Georgia history. That's one that you'll remember for forever. So Dan Jackson makes this list. And then I just kind of put together a list of players that the seasons that they have, I think, mean a lot to them, but also just to someone that views this team every single year, every single game, of Cash Jones, Kristen Miller, Dalen Everett, and Smile Munden. Munden had the best season of his career, especially in the second half of this year. He's playing really good football. Cash Jones, a guy that stuck around the roster. He came in crucial moments for you this year. Kristen Miller having a phenomenal season. We talked about that already. And then Dalen Everett finally having a complete season, forcing turnovers, playing to the standard that I knew he was capable of. But everybody's seeing it now and acknowledging it that Dalen Everett is a really good football player. I just feel like those list of players needed to make this list.
All right. I love that. I went, instead of favorite moments, top 5 moments that gave me goosies. No LLI.
No, we're strict today.
Yeah, we're very lazy today. We're very Christian Kirby-esque. $120 now. Top 5 moments that gave Brooksy the Goosies this season. Number 5, all of La Familia that meets me out in the wild. Anytime I see a member of this family, a member of this chat, I get the Goosies. One moment sticks out the most to me. I was at Tuscaloosa this year, and I'm down on the field 3 hours before, like I always am. Only person on the field, just walk around, getting the lay of the land, getting the Goosies while I'm standing there, honestly, because it's a cathedral. It's a coliseum of college football is what that place is. And I'm looking over to my left, and all of a sudden I get ransacked from my right side, and it's 2, what do you call them, EMTs, 2 guys that work with the paramedics department. And, I mean, they could have been twins. They look like twins. And they met me with just such energy and such happiness that they saw me, and they've been watching me ever since the film study that I did with Kalen DeBoer. And they're Bama fans, and they live in Tuscaloosa, and they just, man, that you'd have thought they met a real celebrity, not somebody who just talks football for a living. So that right there, every single time it happens, Goosies. I get so happy. Never would have thought in my wildest dreams that my work would be recognized out in public. That's insane to me, and every time it never ceases to amaze me. Number 4, Goosies for 4 quarters, Lowndes versus Valdosta. I mean, I never have I been a part of that, and I only get to go to South Georgia football during Friday nights during that Jacksonville football game, and I'm almost going to require in my contract that the Lowndes Valdosta game be played that weekend so I can go watch it. I mean, it was something. It was just something that you have to go see in your lifetime. If you care about football, not even if you care about college football, pro football, if you just love what this sport does to people and what it does to towns and what it makes you feel, go watch that football game. Last 15 minutes of Bama and Georgia. All time. And this is how you know that I'm not just some homer, that I really do love football. Mouth open, Goosies on the arms for the last 15 minutes during that football game. Every ebb and flow of that one was just field storming 8 OTs. Now, I know you guys didn't storm the field, but your boy did. All right, because when the game's over at Georgia, media gets to just ransack the field. And I'm running around, flicking up everything I can and getting to storm a field as a media member. And that, that's fun. That's a real fun
very
moment.
memeable moments that night too.
Very memeable moments right there during that time period. And then my number one Goosey moment, watching Georgia's offensive line hype up the crowd for when Gunnar Stockton came in. I mean, I'm in the midst of Goosies right now talking about it. It means everything. Just that's what it is. That's what football is to me. Knowing that, and I don't miss playing ever, except for those moments. Those moments when I can tell that it is a brotherhood, and it's why I've enjoyed doing my work now much more so with a team as opposed to being an individual. It does mean a lot more.
Mm-hmm. I mean, too, like even when they post their post-game highlight reel that they always
that
do on
Lawson
Mondays.
quote. Oh.
Yeah, Lawson Lucky telling him, if you believe in yourself as much as I believe in you, we're in great shape. Like those moments just really speak to this sport and like what it does, and what you said, the brotherhood of it. Knowing that in the biggest game of the season for them, the backup quarterback is in it. They're showing nothing but love and support in the biggest moment. Like those moments are so cool.
I just feel like there's no this when you leave football, and really when you leave organized team sports, there's not this give and take. I'm going to sacrifice myself for the betterment of us. When we leave, man, when we leave football, when we leave sports, everybody's angling for their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I do love what we do. And I feel like we're a team, and we're striving for the same things, and we're hurting for the same things, for the same glory. But when you leave this sport, and when you leave sports in general, you don't have that anymore. Yeah. There's not this collective we.
No.
But I think we do a good enough job of establishing that here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does feel like a team aspect here of like every day we sit in the studio, we get our game plan together, we talk about what we want to do, how we want to execute it, and then it's a matter of seeing if we can go execute it the next 2 hours. And the next day, re-game plan everything.
I mean, at least for 2 of the 3 team members. Do we have nostalgic tape?
Oh, dude.
Oh, no!
No.
We're ready? We're ready for nostalgic tape? This guy's on his shit, man.
I will say.
That's Oscar Delp.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say is this is not one. Oh, that one did not switch.
That's all good. Yeah, this is definitely Oscar Delp. I say it's the West Forsyth unis that got me.
Yeah, I figured. I was like, I'm not going to try and stump him, but.
It could have been Dylan Fairchild, so you could have gotten me.
Oh, could have
gotten me. Or one of the copious members of the walk-on staff that have come from West Forsyth, Here we go. Let's take a look. Now, this guy right here, this is a third-string running back at Clemson right now. His name's Peyton Strecco. Peyton Strecco was a verbal commit to Air Force before he preferred walk-on to Clemson, and now he's their third back.
Love it.
Also, I think almost broke the state record for career rushing yards in the state of Georgia. Peyton Strecco, a dude. All right? So there we go. Let's get rid of this. He's up there at the top. Oh, he's going to jump over somebody, too. Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, watch him get up and show. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Now, this dude probably for 3 straight years led West Forsyth in personal fouls. Okay, and they weren't late hits. It was all talking shit and celebrating. Now, when he got to Georgia, he kind of did this one for the first 2 years. Kind of was in his shell and was very quiet as a football player. I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for spike the football, double fingers up to the corner that he just put on the ground, you're a little boy, to the safety that he just jumped over, because he plays better this way. He plays much more athletic. He plays much more confident. He plays much more arrogant. He plays all of the things that make him, or what made him this, in high school. He's still got all the physical capabilities that he had in this tape. I just feel like he's far more confident in high school. Now, yeah. You get into a room with Brock Bowers, and you get into a facility that's got a bunch of really, really alpha personalities, and maybe by nature you're not as confident because you're not as alpha as you once were, but man, if he can ever return to this style of play, now I know college, high school, totally different, but how many 50-50 high point balls have we seen like this, Jonathan? Or plays like this, I mean, shit. And granted, he was used as much more of a weapon in high school than he is right now. I mean, he was their best player by far. But yeah, this was a freakazoid in high school that played with uber confidence. A little false step there at the line of scrimmage, but that's okay. He's going to high point that too. Yeah. I mean, this is against Walton. This is a state championship caliber roster the year before they won it right here. He's double moving, triple moving basically right there. And that's Marcus Allen, I think, the safety that he jumped over right there, who plays at North Carolina right now. So he's playing. It's him in the Wildcat. And you can stop. I mean, he's still the same athletic. I mean, he almost looks identical body-wise from when he did in high school. It's the same football player, height, weight, speed-wise, right? Still 6'5", still now 245 pounds. He's 235 pounds right here. 245 pounds, still a sub 4.6 runner. Just haven't seen this type of athleticism pop from him in college, Jonathan.
No, not yet. And don't know what the future is for him after this season. I have no idea what that's going to look like. But I just wanted to go back and look at that because I remember you talking about what he was in high school, how he acted and whatnot. So thought it'd be fun to go back and look at that.
I need it. Oh, hey, Oompa Loompa Brooks. I need that level of confidence back from that dude. I want to see that type of Oscar Del. If he got a personal foul, I'd be happy. I'd be like, hell yeah. Now, Kirby chew his ass out.
Sure.
I'd be on the sideline going, hey, whatever the prize pick or whatever the better player overs are right now on Oscar, go hammer them live if you can, because my man fitting go off right now.
Absolutely.
We went off.
Yeah, we did.
We went off. This is a good little show right there between us right here. You know, maybe we're a twosome. Maybe we're not a trio, 130.
Christian, if for whatever reason you are listening right now, if you skip to this point, if this is all you listen to, I need you back in the studio, all right? Because you work this a whole lot better than I do, all right? We need you back in here. And you need to collect your dollar amounts, obviously that too.
You know, as a parent, one of the very first things you establish with your kids are the difference between needs and wants. Okay? I don't think we need him. I think we want him. Is that fair?
I like my guy next to me.
Just kidding you, Kirby. Love you. Love you guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow.